put him on his back. Thurston, right foot kick, down the ground, into the in goal almost. Hodgson cuts it off. Hodgson taken by Norton. He took him late. Marshall skips away. Marshall's still going. Marshall's got Richards coming up outside. Now inside. Richards pursued. He pushes Johnson away.
Good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025. You're back for another episode of the Tiger Town podcast with your hosts, Zach and Toby. Zach at this and Toby at the other. Brought to you, as always, by Best on Ground Digital. Best on Ground Digital, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They will not steer you wrong. BestOnGroundDigital.com. Toby, we didn't get 7 losses in a row, mate. Because the boys decided to put one back in the W column and throw a curveball at all the rest of us. I said we would win 5 of our last 7 last week.
You did? I thought that was ambitious.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I wasn't counting on this one.
No, and I think a lot of people were. I think by the time kickoff was out, kickoff was due. I think we were paying $4 something to win.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. Look, it's always good to get a win, but it's always amazing to beat the Roosters. So they said it's the first time we've beat the Roosters in a regular season game since 2018.
Yeah, you remember that game? That was
do.
Tui Lolohea kicked the sideline conversion.
Corey Thompson scored in the corner.
Yeah,
off a headbutt,
I think.
Yeah, cheek ham headbutt.
And I think that was that Teddy's first game in a Roosters jersey? Or first game against us, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
No, it was his first game, and I think it was his first game in the Roosters because that was round 1.
There you go. Went on to have a horrible start to his Roosters career the first couple of years, mate, didn't he?
He did. You know, he probably wants that time back.
Yeah, I dare say. Yeah, quite good. Yeah, horrible record against the Roosters we've had, mate. And yeah, pretty pleasing. I mean, 20-0 up in the modern game. It's not 20-0 of old. We've seen sides do it often. We've done it. We nearly did it to the Cowboys. So I don't think, you and I watched that game together again, and I don't think either of us at any point, up until I called it with 1:40 to go, and somehow, we nearly Cowboysed ourselves from the other year ago. But, yeah, look, the win's the win, and pleasing in the end. And I think considering all the outs, you don't really care the final score line or the 5 tries to 4 or whatever it was. I think the way the boys played that game, there was a lot to like. What do you make of it?
There was a lot to like. It was, excuse me. There was the most pleasing thing for me was the intensity. Sorry, just trying to clear my throat. Was the intensity. I think there was a few moments that lapsed, and that's when they took their opportunities. But I'd say for at least 60 minutes of that, we were the dominant team by far. I don't think we really let them get a good roll on. Momentum didn't really swing that much their way. It was, the tries came from a kick and 2 individual pieces of brilliance, really. And then, obviously a short side down our left-hand side. But, it was, you could tell that there was a point to prove. Like we already knew there was going to be a point to prove for Terrell. He came out and basically said, I'm going to show what they're missing. But across the board from kickoff, it seemed like a team that just had purpose. And it's something that I wouldn't say we've been lacking, well, we have, but more so just at the start of games. You said it copious amounts of times this year. We keep putting ourselves in a position where we have to fight our way back into it because we don't start well. We started so well on the weekend and dropped off a little bit at times, but yeah, very, very pleased.
Yeah, no doubt. You could see in the post-match, by the responses of, a lot of the interviews that were done. I'll talk about the things that Latu said as well a bit later. And, you could tell, mate, that there was a lot of emotion, I think, for them going into that game. And I think that the players were using this as an opportunity to really galvanise themselves. Excuse the pun. Unfortunately, he's going to ruin that word for a while, I think, for a lot of Tigers fans. So. And I think, to be honest, they hit it well. They really didn't make much of a fuss of that in the lead-up at all. But you could see, post-match, how much it meant. The intensity, for me, was the thing too. Line speed still wasn't always where I would like it to be personally. But outside of that, the contacts were far, far better.
Yeah,
even Seyfarth was hitting people a little bit harder, 10, 15% harder than what he was in the past. Still losing the ruck position in his short time on the field. But that made a big difference. They were whacking blokes. And, pleasing to see. A pretty inexperienced Roosters side. But I'd say, look, on paper, in terms of what our outs are to our side versus what their outs are to their side, still influential.
Absolutely. They still had their part. They still had pretty much the halves pairing they've had for the better part of the year.
Plus Tedesco at the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tupou on the wings and Nwanga Tuwaze, we saw what he did. I don't think for a second that the Roosters were worse off in that department. I think it's probably a wash, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
If you look at our best half or best spine in the comp, throwaway line that Richo said earlier in the year, none of them were playing in that game.
No.
Latu was coming off his first 80 minutes in the NRL ever. And outside of that, we had fill-ins. We had a winger playing fullback. Well, we don't even need to go into it. we know how short we were. So I think given all that, how we got the win was impressive in and of itself. But even if it weren't, the win is the win. And a W is a W. And sometimes a club needs it. And we really needed that to arrest a bit of a... It wasn't a free fall in terms of how they'd been playing. It was a free fall in terms of results, obviously, and that's when it does start to affect how they play.
Well, didn't stop the media trying to throw spanners in the works again, trying to, water down the victory for us fans, did it? Yeah, we needed the W, but they still found a way to try to upset the apple cart.
I was pretty filthy on that, and I'm not normally one to really get too worked up about the media, but the timing of that, I was pretty filthy, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
Both Karagianis and Shemus, who of late, in some ways, was seen as someone who actually didn't mind the Tigers, and was getting a lot of plaudits around the way he took Gus on Channel 9 and that sort of stuff as well. But dead set, the timing of that article makes no sense. The Jerome Luai situation hasn't changed and won't change for months, if at all. Like, the fact that news came out then means nothing to nothing. The Jerome Buller situation hasn't changed. There's nothing changing there.
No.
In terms of the options. If we choose to take it up for 27, that's our choice. It's a mutual option for those that don't know. If we choose to take it up, as in we really want him, he gets 900. If we choose not to, he can take it up if he would like, meaning that we didn't quite want him for that much and he would get 800. So if we want him, he stays, and he's going to stay. He's not going anywhere, Jerome Buller.
He's not going anywhere. His wife plays for the Tigers.
Yeah, and so it's like I was particularly annoyed in this situation because of the timing of it, and it looked like, considering there was nothing indicating that article was pressing, was important, was relevant, was contextual to anything that was happening at the time. So it was a pure and utter destabilising release, and it was by two of them at the same time. Completely unnecessary. And it was just about pulling joy out of a fan base in a club. That's all it was. Like, they had their first win since Magic Round, which was in April. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
So we hadn't won a game of football since April.
May.
Was it? First weekend in May, maybe.
Yeah.
So 7 odd weeks. would have been our 7th week of losses with buys in between, so probably longer than that, couple of months. And within 24 hours, you spit that out. Like, fair dinkum. The only thing I could possibly think, and this is probably adding rationale where it needn't be, is that the articles were pre-written to drop off the back of an expected loss. Which you do, you're right about losing clubs. But if that's the case, bin it, because it was trash anyway, and there was zero information, new information in either of those articles. Bin it and write something nice about the Fainu boys, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus
History-making.
Christ. If the issue, and this is why I don't believe a word that they say. And Shemus, I did believe when he goes on another pod or two from time to time. And I like what he's done, and I like the way he goes about his business. But this I just don't get. I don't understand it. Because the bottom line is, you know that Tigers fans click on these articles. You know that people read Tigers. You know that it gets big clicks and big likes and big follows and big traffic and big engagement. But what you don't understand is the good stories fucking get it too. Off the back of a win, every single Tigers fan will want to click on a nice story about Latu, or the three of them, or whatever you wanted to do. The fact that Charlie Staines has been pulled out of reserve grade and averaging over 170 odd metres since he's come up and done a job this year. Like, write something good about a struggling team who got a win, because you're going to get just as much traffic and content without the blowback. I don't get it, mate. I genuinely don't get it, and yeah, you probably don't need to. Unless, like I said, this is why I don't tend to get too overly worked up in the media. It was just more the fact that it was the timing of it seemed just purely to take the joy away from people who hadn't had much. Like a bully just pulling a lollipop away from a kid at a playground. Like, what are you doing? Tigers fans we've had nothing give us a chance to enjoy a win.
Yeah. Like I said, you know my view on the media. You know my view on all of them. It's just, yeah. It's, as soon as I read that, I just sat there. I actually laughed. I was like, that doesn't surprise me at all. Like, you and I watched the game together, and we'll go back to talking about it because we got on a bit of a tangent about this one.
That's right.
But we watched the game together. We had it was a bloody good afternoon. We enjoyed everything that came after that because we were in a good mood. It's been, for the last 4 years, it's been very few and far between to have this feeling, and we want to enjoy it. And then on that article came out, and I was like, you know what? Go and get fucked. And that's all I can say, because it was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. It was a straw man's approach at trying to get something out there to build credibility. That's all it was, and it's bullshit.
Certainly is. We will go back to the game. Lift and sing.
My lift. Oh, you're gonna go?
No, you go.
No, you go. You know what? I think he started poor, but I think he finished on fire. My lift is actually Tristan Hope. I went back and I watched the game. His service from dummy half can be better. He does tend to stand up and then pass. Could pass from the ground.
He actually does both.
Yeah, but he tends to lean more towards standing up first. And that's
the point I was going to make, and I'm agreeing with you. The point I was going to make, though, the fact that he does both means that the timing of his passes is a little bit inconsistent. Because I thought you made that comment in the game, and I went back and rewatched it again as well. But I was noticing he was actually spitting from the ground a lot more than I had thought he did too. So I was like, okay, well, what's going on here? And I think that's what it was, because the timing of some of the runs and the passes were different at different times. But look, I mean, you're lifting him, so let's.
And I think 41 tackles, 0 misses. He was. When I talk about the intensity and the desperation, there was across the board. They all had that, but I feel like he epitomized that game.
Yep.
And the last one we had, the last time he started, we were not very impressed with him. We thought he kind of fizzled out a little bit, unfortunately. And then obviously when he got named last week, we were like, well, we don't really have anyone else. So, but mate, I think he rose to the occasion in a very, very tough game. So he's my lift.
Yeah. Yeah, look, absolutely. And he's had some standout performances this year in New South Wales Cup, Tristan, as well, like big try scoring. I think he scored 4 tries in a game earlier in the year.
He did, yeah.
And he had been playing all right. I had read that he was a bit down in form in recent times, and I was sort of like, I don't know how his form is to come back in. I never doubted he would do a job. I just wondered if Tristan's game was a little bit too simple, given we had so many outs and would be largely ineffective. But yeah, like you said, rewatching the game as well, a lot of people were super rapt with his performance. I'm rapt with it considering he's come up from reserve grade and jumped in and done the job. That's what I like about Tristan. He's just honest up front. He speaks so well. You can tell he's a toiler and he gets everything out of it. And it's all attitude. I love it. And I love him. He looks like a cracker of a team, man. But he came in and he did his job. And that's the most important thing. Like you said, he made his tackles. His service was relatively solid. And yeah, no, mate, I agree with you. You know what it was? It was a vindicating performance for the somewhat. And I know that it wouldn't have really played too much of a decision, but certainly would have been part of it. Vindicating decision for Benji and Richo. Richie and Benjo. The Richie and Benjo show. About letting Tal leave. You know, knowing that Tristan had this performance in him and was capable, like 80 minutes, mate, or near on 80 minutes.
Yeah, well,
so
you could clearly tell that Charlie Murray was just there as a stopgap to give Hopey a bit of a break because he was back on after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
no, well done. Credit where credit's due, and deservedly he's got another run in the 14 this week. We'll talk a little bit about later. So well done, Tristan, and great to see. Great
so who's
to see.
your lift?
There's so many, and I went through, and I wanted to pick somebody a little bit left field. I'm going to say Charlie Staines.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Staines' performances this year, we've mentioned it before, are such that he is like up there genuinely with what Skelton and Taruva have done to our side out of the back end this year. Possibly better at times. Like Charlie is performing incredibly, mate, out of the back end. Incredible. His ability to get the ball at speed out of the back end, take multiple carries, get between defenders, and generally speaking, not get dominated in tackles, particularly in recent games. Outstanding. And he's finishing. He was there available for Toa's pass. He was watching, knew.
Oh, my God.
That flick pass, magic. So, well done, Charlie. God, it's, to be able to call on him with the form he's been, I think, this year is a bit of a blessing for us. And weirdly, mate,
more reports he wants to stay too. He's obviously he's off contract and he wants to stay.
Oh, mate, you re-sign him in a heartbeat.
Re-sign him in a heartbeat.
100%. And what I will say as well is the backline depth very, very suddenly, and we'll get to this a little bit more later, is looking pretty nuts. Because if we've got the likes of the starting wingers of Tito and Skelton, under them we've got Tui Tupu, who is playing the absolute house down and dominating New South Wales Cup. Like, from the wing, he's been unbelievable in the Magpies' return to form. Huge meters, killing it. Charlie Staines is the other winger down there, doing his job. Then you've got May and Makasini that you'll talk about a little bit later in the centres, who can both and have, well, Makasini's 17, but they both can play wing. So, towards later in the season, then into next year, wing is a possibility, but they're there in the centres as well. We've got Toa in the centres himself. We've got Luke Lealale'i there, who played in the centres on the weekend. We'll talk more about him because there's some points I want to make about him, but he's played wing and he's a fullback. We've got Heath Mason, who can play through the back line, but will probably be a utility, but can cover. Naden, I think, is still signed next year at this stage.
No, he's off. I'm really certain he's off.
Is he off, is he? Okay. And even then, floating around down below, the types of people that you don't necessarily, with respect, want to call on, the likes of Fatape and whatnot as well, have experience, have first grade experience playing in the back line. And then you got guys like Tino Tavana and whatnot knocking on the door of Flegg and having a cracker of a season. So they'll be next cab off the rank. So, look, I'm not saying that we don't need any outside backs. I'd love another centre. I'd love a crack at a genuine centre. But I think, I think that our outside backs suddenly are starting to look pretty solid.
Absolutely. And it's funny, like, we talk about all
that was
the
without
movements.
Dewey too. No,
Yeah.
sorry, so you're right. Yeah. No, Dewey.
But we talk about all the movements and everything that's happened. You know, anyone that hasn't watched or listened to the Richo interviews over the last couple of days, obviously he was on 360 and I think ABC as well.
He's on ABC, yeah, worth a listen. It's like an extended version in a way of the
360.
360.
But he
so he's doing
talks
his
about
rounds.
how long it actually takes to rebuild an unsuccessful club.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of the dead weight. He said something last night along the lines of he was fair dinkum that we only had, in our top 30, we probably had 22 first graders.
In the top 36. So he's
top
including
36.
the dev players as well
Yeah,
that were capable
22
of playing first grade.
So we had no depth.
That means
None.
he means capable of first grade. He doesn't mean stars or
he
high
just means
quality
guys
first
that can
graders.
actually play first grade and
people that could hold their own in first grade.
Like a Charlie Staines, Tui Tupu, all that jazz.
And remember, Richo started in January 24.
Yeah.
18 months ago. He's been here 18 months and he's only been, and he was interim for the first 6 months of that. So he's only been the CEO of the West Tigers for a year.
For a year. And he's done, like, him and Benji have, and like, there's no two ways about it. Benji has had a big part in this as well. Everyone needs to realize that. You know, he was my sink last week, but he was my sink purely on the way that he ran that team and that bench. That was it.
And fair enough too. You know,
but
because
he and
we were
Richo
poor against Manly.
Yeah, put a broom through the entire club. Dead weight, players that didn't want to be there. Yeah. There's probably still a few to go. You know, there's probably still a few that we probably don't need anymore. But what we're seeing now is a club that we're pretty comfortable. We know what our starting 13 looks like at the moment. Could we see improvement? Absolutely. But what we also have is a cup team that has a raft of talent that can play first grade. And we haven't had that in a very long time. So when you think about, you know, Panthers have this whole mentality, next man up. You know, Storm have this mentality, next man up. Because the people that are playing underneath them are genuine first graders. I feel I don't think we're quite there yet, next man up kind of mentality, but we're definitely, we're comfortable in a lot of positions. You know, if somebody goes down in, let's say, the second row, can we cover that? Yes. Will we get the same output? Absolutely not. So you're talking about Staines there. You know, he's very unlucky to be not starting every week because we have two genuine starters. But as we've seen, you know, Tito has to go to fullback, and I do want to talk a little bit about Tito in a sec, but Tito goes to fullback, Stain comes in, we haven't missed anything. We've got a guy that can finish and a guy that can run hard meters out of there. And at times, Tito's been a bit poor in terms of his defensive decisions. Haven't really seen that yet from, you know, touch wood, from Staines in first grade.
I argue on that. I reckon earlier in the season he made a couple of poor calls, but he was performing well, so you're allowed to. Look, I agree with you, the point you're making, for sure.
But yeah, wanted to just quickly go back to Tito as well. He's kind of another lift in a way. Like, I'm not going to actually lift him in this one, but purely for, and this Honorable is something mention. You addressed very, very early on in the game, his communication out the back. He was screaming at people. He was telling people where to go, where you need to be, you know, how much to slide, etc., etc. He was yelling at them in defense. And you could tell that. You could tell, like, you think about, there was, what was that? Rodwell, the winger, when we took him out over the line. You watch that again. Tito's sprinting there, but before all that happened, he's pushing everyone out to the left. He's like, just go.
Yeah.
And like we
And it's
love
that.
Buller. Buller's our fullback, but
Mm.
if Buller can get that voice too, holy shit!
Yeah. It was interesting. I was thinking about that today. I was just pottering around. You know,
You
I'm
tend
on
to
leave.
potter around.
Yeah, I like pottering around. I'm on leave at the moment, so I was just pottering around cleaning out the shed. Good time, mate. Listen to podcasts and stuff. But I was thinking about Tito's performance, and I was like, you know what? Not only is he just shown that he's a capable understudy or backup to Buller, but he's not. His strengths as a fullback are not Buller's strengths as a fullback, meaning that he's not Buller, but we gain in a number
Buller's
of
not him.
correct. Buller's not him. To you, yeah. And so, like, there's some things that Tito does as a fullback that are some of the weaknesses of Dream. So, what I could almost think is, if in the future we've almost got a bit of a mulligan, if God forbid, Buller misses games or whatnot with Tito there, because a little tweak of the game plan to get Tito to play to Tito's strengths can allow the side to, as you were saying, with Staines coming in for Tito's position, Tito coming in for Buller, as long as the game plans match, I think that he could be equally as effective a fullback, or even more so in certain areas, than what Buller can. I'm not arguing that, and this is what I've seen floating around. It's fucking ridiculous. I'm not arguing for a second that Tito should replace Buller as fullback. What I'm saying is, when he needs to, out of necessity, his strengths in a way are Buller's weaknesses, and he's pretty good at them. Like you were talking about communication, mate, his ability to play through the middle, which we see occasionally as a winger, but bobbing around in and around the ruck, man, like I had flashbacks to like a 18-year-old or whatever he was when he was playing fullback for Fiji and ran for over 300 metres or something and just was electric. I remember saying to you at the time or something that I'd heard about this Sania Taruva, like at the Panthers' younger grades. I think he was 17 playing cup and destroying people.
Yeah.
Like they were doing what, when Suafan Longo first come in and he was just untouchable.
Just raining people,
that's what Tito was doing over at Penrith.
I remember that
early
because,
days.
funnily enough, he is a mate's cousin. So when he made grade, the mate was like, "Oh, you need to watch this bloke. He's my cousin." I was like, why?" And then I was like, "Okay, I get you. I know." So,
yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, definitely honourable mention, mate. 100%. And it does, again, like it's another piece to the puzzle. Who's your backup fullback? Like we've tried Heath Mays and he's weak under the high ball. We could, I don't know, what do? You call up Naden, Luke Lealii, he's a bit young, he's a fullback, he's a bit, bang, Tito. Tito's our backup fullback.
Absolutely.
Luke Lealii might come of age, and at a certain point, if he's playing a lot of cup there, but we want to make him into a centre, who knows? But yeah, another good problem to have. Excuse me. Did you hear that?
No, not at all.
Excellent. Another good problem to have solved. We better do a quick sync, mate, and then we'll move on to continuing, I think, to talk about the game.
Yeah, I know. God, we have barely even talked about it. We're almost 30 minutes in.
Who have you got?
Unfortunately, my sync is Kit. I think that's probably universal, to be honest. He tried to make a big impact. Ran off the back fence, really ran through it. But yes, he lost the ball, got a bit overzealous, got up early, but it was more the try to Tupou. Didn't put any pressure on the kicker at all, so that the kicker had every chance to put it on a dime. He jogged and then he walked. Then he sort of just crab walked to to where the try was going to happen.
I'm pretty sure I yelled at your laptop.
I was surprised my laptop's not broken.
Right. So really, it was my sync.
Huh?
So really, he was my sync.
No,
we're in agreement.
We're in agreement.
Okay.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. I just don't think he's ready. Like some kids are ready, some kids aren't ready. I just don't think he's ready. Like he's part of that same crew. He's mature. He's built. I just don't think he's ready as a footballer. I think Kit needs to spend time playing. And maybe it's his position, maybe it's his build, maybe it's just something about him as a footballer. He's got to mature as a footballer. And I think with a lot of that comes 1%ers. And I think that will come with time, where he learns to basically make his game far more well-rounded, smarter as a footballer, prioritise different things in the game, be able to manage energy throughout a game. I think that only comes from playing for some people. And yeah, I think, yeah, from everything I've heard and seen of Kid, he could be a 100-game first grader. No worries, whether it's here or elsewhere. But I just don't think it's going to come early like some of our other
No, I
kids
think he's
have.
gonna. Yeah, he's gonna a bit more development.
Yeah, you look at Sione. Like when Sione came, Sione's 22, I think, turned 23 this year. I think when he came to us, he had played under, I think it was under 18's Origin, and was like a gun, like all of Fayanu's, but gun. He was over at Manly. He was killing it in the younger grades. He was the guy. He was just the prop that could do everything. I think he played like a full game or near on a full game of Origin in the front row because they lost some of their players. And weapon came to us, and he was overweight, and he was playing in the or by reports he was overweight, apparently unfit, I should say, playing in reserves, and not really doing much, in and out of the side and on the bench and whatnot. And then it's just clicked, and it's taken him that extra period of time, that 4 or 5 years from that 18-year-old who showed promise, whereas Kid is only 19, turning 20, so I think he's just 20 or 20 this year. So, yeah, look, maybe it just takes a bit of time. Who knows?
And also, remember, he's been pushed around a little bit. He was originally going to be touted as a lock. Then I think he played a little bit of back row. Now he's trying to build himself into a damaging bullock in front rower. So, I think he just needs to spend a lot of time in that position, understand what his strengths are, work on his weaknesses, and that's it.
Yeah, like all the skills there. Now it's just time to grind away for a bit. And sometimes some people in certain positions have to grind away in reserve grade, and others can Lockie Galvin waltz right in wherever they want. But it's not fair, but maybe he's one of them.
Sucked in Bulldogs.
Mine's Seafarth again.
Okay.
And I did wrap him earlier, and it's more so that I just think, like with due respect, Alex, I think we're starting to get to a position where we're nearly outgrowing him in the side.
Yeah.
Because we didn't mention Sukkar, and no one will mention Sukkar. But I'm pretty sure Sukkar played 80 minutes on an edge. Did you notice him?
No.
Because he didn't make mistakes. He didn't give away penalties. He didn't make errors. He didn't get in the way. He didn't fall off tackles in the ruck or the wrestle and lose position at marker. He just did his job. So I think in the back end of the year, we've got Sukkar and Semwella there in starting. Bird's dropped out, so Bird has to come back in. Royce Hunt was dropped and has since turned in some pretty good performances. Apparently was pretty good on the weekend in Cup again in his role, but was pretty good. So, there's every chance he's going to force his way back into the side. You got Heath Mason available soon. You got Tristan Hope now on the bench. And Sione's playing the house down. So there's only so many players you can fit into that side. He's shown now, Benji, that he's willing to pick Sukkar over Seafarth. So I just think he's expendable, mate, at the moment. And that's a good problem to have. Because in some ways, if we're next year, I expect him to play a little bit of cup because he's been extended. I think he might get squeezed out. I'm not sure. He'll be in and around the side. But look, if you have to call Alex Seafarth up with 50, 60-odd first-grade games or more to your bench one week because you're down a couple of players, probably not that bad. But even on the weekend, he was out of position in the ruck and leaving his marker isolated with one. He did that several times. And just a lack of impact. He did a couple of good things, and it's probably a bit of a rough sink. And I did sort of lead with that, that it was more just a comment that I think that we're finally outgrowing the necessity to play him.
Yeah.
Which I think that's probably a better way to phrase it. And I think that's probably a sign that the squad is finally starting to become a little bit more complete.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I'm just moving my desk back down for anyone that's watching.
That's all right. You got one of those standing desks, mate.
I have one of those standing desks. The joys of working from home for a living. So
That's enough standing.
Yeah,
Enough
that's enough
standing for now.
standing. Nah,
Legs
that
get
was
too
enough
sore.
standing. Yeah, that was 10 minutes too long. But yeah, no, look, it's hard to argue with that. You know, what he did well off the bench last year, because we both agree he was such an improver last year. Because he was doing a great role off the bench. But for what it seems like to me now, because he's lost his starting spot, he's overplaying his hand to try to get it back. And that is causing, like you said, leaving his marker marker on their own, you know. His first up contact a couple of times were a little overzealous and didn't really stick all that well, you know. He actually did manage to get the players on their back for once, which was good. He won the ruck, won the wrestle.
Yeah, he did wrestle all right. That's what I said. Like he was a bit better in the tackle on the weekend, and that's why I did mention it was a rough sink. You know, he wrestled a bit better. He did hit a little bit better, but yeah,
like I feel like how much he's developed and evolved since the original Seyfarth that came into grade. I feel like I've got a little bit of a soft spot for him, so I kind of want him to evolve into something that we need on the bench. You know, that whether it's just that intensity that we need, you know, maybe that intensity we need just in the middle of the ruck to control the middle of the ruck, to just slow it down. You know, if he can learn how to do that, maybe that's something that we can utilize. But like you said, at the moment, he's sort of becoming a surplus.
Yeah.
So
he's certainly on the way to it, and you know, one or two more additions and arrivals, and yeah, may well get squeezed out, but that's part of the
game,
part of the course, mate. Yeah, part of the business. Read Marnie's off to the cows, and
yeah, which is sucked in Bulldogs. But you know, another big mention to Twally, 1 for 1. Good on you, captain.
Yeah, he's probably got. He'd have a fair argument to have the best captaincy record in the West Tigers history, I would imagine.
Can't think of anyone that would have better.
I wonder if there was any other one-off or two-off, possibly.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
You reckon? I'm not that sure. It'd be an interesting one. I mentioned that I wanted to retouch on Luke Lelele quickly, and I wanted to say that I hope that people don't, or aren't, I should say, quick to jump conclusions on that performance on the weekend, because I think outside of a couple of costly errors in defence, he was actually really, really good.
I think in attack he was extremely solid. I think his positioning play was really, really good. I would have liked to have
He came within a whisker of literally slicing them in half and going himself out of nothing earlier in the game.
I think the thing that I probably would have liked to have seen a little bit more from him would have chasing down those high bombs to contest.
Yeah, sure.
Whether that was a game plan or not from Benji, I'm not sure, because we all seem to go down in a line.
Yeah, there was no contesting. Like we have seen.
That was pissing you off, so.
Something chronic. Like, make everything a contest. Yeah, but what I did want to say is Mark Nawanga has been destroying people one-on-one. Like, he's been Stafford towering people. Stafford Toe has been destroying multiple people, and he'll beat 3 or 4. But, yeah, what Nawanga has been doing to people this year, there's an argument that he's in the top 3 centres at the moment in the game, the way he's been playing.
It was talks if Crichton or Latrell weren't available to join the New South Wales team.
Yeah, well, there you go. That would have been one hell of a bloody debut season, I tell you. He's a freak.
It's for everyone that needs to understand how much of a freak this guy is. Go back to that try he scored a few weeks ago, where he hopped on one leg, kicked the ball, ran outside, came back in and scored.
Yeah.
What sort of a freak does that?
Yeah. Exactly. And Luke was playing somewhat out of position, although I love him as a centre and I want him to keep training as a centre. He's an 18-year-old kid. Like, I'll cop that. I don't want it to happen and I don't want it to repeat, but he's an 18-year-old kid playing first grade against one of the form centres in the entire league. And he had
not
two
to mention,
he had 2 tries scored on him, but he had a lot of tries not scored. He can see the thing is there's 80 minutes of football, and he marked Mark for 80 minutes of football. He got past him twice. That means outside of that twice, he didn't get past him.
but also remember that one try. He didn't just get past Luke. He got past Latu. He got past Tito. He got past Gerald. He got past 4 people. So
it was bullshit.
So that's the thing. And then,
Yeah.
like, the other thing they've got to realize is Marky Mark is an ex-Wallaby as well. So he has played the pinnacle of Union. So, like, give the kid a break.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm coming into bat for Luke in that situation, and
Yeah,
that's
I'm
the other
feeling
thing.
you're going to a fair bit.
What's that?
Not that he's going to stuff up or anything, but you just love Luke.
I just think there's such a good player in there, and that we haven't even scratched the surface, or people haven't seen what he's capable of. Anyway, let's keep moving on, mate. Anybody else from that side that you wanted to mention? We haven't even barely uttered the syllables Fainu yet, but
Or
man, I'd
May.
love to.
Like, I think that, look, the Fainu brothers, I think they speak for themselves. I don't think we need to touch too much on them because everyone else has, but it's a
I've
good
been
shout.
glazing Latu since she was at Manly. I nearly cried in an episode, like episode 30 or 40, when we signed them. Do you remember?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
should go
you were
back.
stoked.
I should go back and clip that and said, "You fucking wait, mate, till you see these blokes play."
No, you didn't say that about Sam. You said that about Latu. Don't fucking lump Sam in there, mate. You didn't know anything about him.
You don't remember that for a fact. I'm pretty certain I did.
No, I do actually, because I also remember you like, I didn't know much about Sam before he came to us, but my God, I'm glad I love him.
Okay, well there you go. Anyway,
look, I will give you Latu. I will give you Latu. As soon as we signed him, you were over the moon. You were ecstatic. You're like, I can't believe we got this kid. This kid is an absolute gun. He's coming with his brother.
yes, I was at half mast.
Yeah, but you didn't have
Now I'm
Sam,
at
so
full.
I'm not giving you that. Yeah, look, I think, yeah, like again, Latu was not as dominant last week as he was, but none of our team was. But I think Benji said it best, where he said the thing that helped Latu really well in this game was having an experienced playmaker next to him. Because remember, he's 19 years old. He's played, like you said, one full game of first grade. You know, he's going to take time to develop, to have that foresight and to have that game management and that planning. That's why an experienced half helps him and then allows him to unlock his natural ability. So you did that with Adam Dewey, who is another honourable mention. I think he was solid, absolutely solid.
He was great.
His boot won us the game, so 7 from 7.
And he's in game boot too. Like his long kicks were pretty well placed. You know, I know he's picking out the man a bit, but because he has the airtime with it, it allows us to get that set line, and that was clearly a game plan, as you said before.
Yeah, but then Latu just. Yeah, I remember when he made that breakaway, and you're like, "Oh, don't do it," and you were just worried about his hammy.
Oh.
But came good. And then Sam, we know what we get with Sam, and that's the thing. We don't need to delve into anything with him, really. Again, he's not setting the world alight like he was last year. I mean, we've said this every single pod, but we still give him raps because he's doing everything else. He is, shoring up that left side better than we've had in a very long time, since probably Chrissy Lawrence was on that side. And the big thing for me is how much of a strength to strength Sione's going. I think if Pole hadn't had the game that he had because Pole had an absolute blinder as well. I think there was conversations of starting Sione. But Pole had a blinder, so that's our starting pack. So,
hey, it's hard. It's hard for Sione because he's, mate, I said it last week. He's a sleeper of a player. You look at him and like, with due respect, he doesn't look like Pole, who looks like he was carved out of marble. And to be honest, I guess Terrell is a bit unassuming physically as well. But there's just something about certain players. Like, he's just got spiders on him. He's hard to tackle. He's awkward and he's gangly and his feet are handy. And we saw it on the weekend. Like
his
the way
feet are handy. That sounded interesting.
feet are handy, like his hands are feety.
His hands are feety.
Yeah. But as in, he's got really good feet. He must clearly be stronger than he looks. Because once again, we see him score. Yeah, we see him score from close to the line and smart. I think watching that game, I remember saying, what a smart footballer, because he knew exactly where his body was. Because he came down and it looked like he was a foot short of the line. But he was smart enough to just keep the arm up casually and then just, when it was safe, reach out, roll over and plant it down. It was just, he knew exactly what he was doing. Such a smart footballer, mate. A really unassuming player. And I think the type of player and that every club needs in a lot of ways, where I don't think Sione will ever get the plaudits of Sam and Latu. Partly the position he plays. There's other good players in that position at our club, and he's not a starting player. Prop isn't as flashy of a position. But I think he's the type of player that every club needs to have around, with slightly underrated, that your club loves, and that is almost like a closet gun that you always sort of hang on to, and he's that type of player, I think, for me.
See, you mentioned it quite a few months ago now, where you would love to see them trial him at 13. Now, if Twal wasn't there, I would 100% agree with that now. I would say I've seen enough of him to think he has what it takes to be like a Jake Travojevic kind of lock, where he can be that third middle if need be, but he has silky hands to be that linchpin as well. But you can't usurp Twally right now. I think Twally has solidified that 13 position for himself.
It's a good problem. It's a good problem to have, because if 12 was still plotting, I'd move May to 13 and I'd start Pole and Sione.
Yeah.
But
it's just been
that trio is, and the more May is, since May got snubbed from Origin, he's picked his intensity up. He's hitting harder, he's running harder, and he's passing more, and he's getting more creative. Like, I 100% know that was the feedback from Daly, and he's doing it.
Absolutely.
And he's doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll play Origin next year, I guarantee it.
And that's the thing. Like, for me, that is the most pleasing thing out of this whole thing. Like, yes, I love the fact he didn't get picked, because then we get to keep him for the games and we can actually have a really good front rower.
Yeah.
You know, he should have been picked, no two ways about it. But instead of putting his head down and going, oh, fuck this, he's like, all right, I'm going to show you. And then he just lifts and does exactly what they ask him to do.
Yeah.
You know, if, obviously we've got Origin tomorrow night. If we have another performance like we did with Steph and Max King, it's going to look like Daly, like you had the opportunity to bring in somebody that can actually have an impact. And you stuck with the Bellamy mainstay.
Not only that, and Benici's on the staff as well. Not only that, though, but Payne Haas is in doubt.
Yeah.
Like, he'll probably play, which is good, and To'o as well. But Payne Haas is who's the next best, almost a clone in some ways. He can't quite do what Payne can do, but in terms of work rate and everything else as well, it's Terrell May.
Absolutely.
Kalel Matangi has done it for 3 or 4 games of recent times, but he's only just started doing it. So, he's another option there as well. But anyway, I'm not getting into those selections in New South Wales. Daly can fucking live and die by that rubbish, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
I think as we go forward, I hope that they are at least open to the option of May as 13, because it's a middle anyway.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
know.
mean, we just agreed upon it, so
Yeah, and
nothing more for
it's
me to
hard.
add.
And it's hard without 12. But mate, is there anyone else you wanted to mention on there? Like I've
We just
deliberately
keep going back to them.
we can, yeah. I've deliberately avoided giving Latu too much because I'll just end up
Yeah, we'll this will be a
doing it
2 hour
every
pod.
week. Yeah, I'll just do it
Um,
every week.
no, not no one that again, like I've said, everyone that I think has had an impact, and they will definitely look. They'll definitely like they were a big part of the reason why we beat the Roosters. So I don't really need to go into that. I think for me, a big shout out, because he listens to it, he does, and he loves us, is to Benji. He's our best mate. Benji, come on board, talk to us. But for the week that he's had, and when we were critical of his bench and his selections against the Manly game, but so was he. He was critical of himself. He said, I did stuff I probably shouldn't have. I thought it was the best, but et cetera, et cetera. And for the week he's had with all the shit that the media's put out, trying to destabilize this club, trying to get that clickbait out there, to go out there and just get the team to rally behind you. Anyone sits there, the media can stir up all they want and bring in this Willie Peters bullshit or whatever. From all intents and purposes, not a single conversation has ever happened at all. Richo, there was also that one about how Richo wanted to bring on Mary, but Benji wanted Hodjo. Richo came out and said, I've never even talked to Mary before in my life. And I would believe Richo's side of things rather than the media, so I'll take his word on it. But everything that's happened with Benji, he stood up. It's a hard thing to do when you're off the back of 6 straight losses, and the media's coming for you, and trying to get every piece they can. And then in that press conference, man, the guy can control a mic. Hey, he can do so many mic drops and just walk away. It's so good. So props to you, Ben.
It was a good press conference.
I love that. Oh, it's a bit of a flip of the script for what you guys have been writing the week before.
Yeah, I like it because he doesn't mince his words. He doesn't take forever to say what he needs to say, but he delivers it in a way where no one's left questioning what he's trying to get across.
Yeah.
So he's short, sharp, to the point, and yeah, he doesn't miss, which was good. And he's starting to say, and Richo's starting to say, what everyone else has been saying for a while, which is nice to see. There's fight. There's fight in the club. We might not have been winning of recent times, but there's a lot of fight in the club.
Yeah.
And yeah, if we're going to be down in the trenches, I want to be down there with people who want to fight their way out of it. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And that's why
got to be in that crocodile role, mate.
100%. That's why, to me, Benji Marshall is still the person to get us out of this.
Yeah.
Because his strengths still marry up well to the areas that the club needs in their coach. And I don't going to go too far down that line. Richo, in one of the interviews that you alluded to earlier, said as much. Like, he couldn't have been more dismissive. And someone asked him about Benji at the end of the year. But we ever sit down about Benji's future at the end of the year or something? He's like, no, not at all. No. Yeah. He said, I've never. And he went on to wax lyrical about the first time he met him or something, this sort of stuff. And he goes, I've got no doubts in my mind. Blah, 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 blah. It wasn't he's got the full support of the board, some sort of, false platitude. It was bang, dismissed. Of course not. Like, he might either Richo's the world's best poker player, or Benji's as safe as houses for the foreseeable future. That might simply be next year, but certainly at this stage, there's nothing doing.
I think the thing that sort of falls in Benji's favour is the playing group love him, especially our stars. And so to keep the stars happy, stick with Benji. And that's, if you have a coach that the players want to play for, that's so much. That's such a level up.
That's nearly 3/4 of the battle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, as long as you can get a few players that are all right, as long as they're playing for you and your game plans are all right, you're going to win most of your football games, I reckon, all things being equal. So,
yeah,
I can't believe, like, I can't believe, because it's the default within our fans and just in the NRL sphere in general, but this coach is in trouble, that they always wheel out. This situation is so different for so many reasons, and it's
you know
so
what shits me to tears?
lazy. It's so lazy as a conclusion to jump to.
You know what shits me to tears? I haven't read a single article about Wayne Bennett's job being in jeopardy. Not one. No one
In
gives
fact,
a shit about
at
that.
one point they were looking to extend him.
Yeah. Oh, but yes, that's it for me for this game, because we are getting very long on the tooth and we still got a little bit to do.
We do have a little bit to do, mate, and something that's going to be rather enjoyable, I think, for you to wrap your lips around, so to speak, is an enjoyable weekend from the pathways. So, mate, it must be 55 minutes and 19 seconds. It must be time. Is it time?
Got to be time. It's got to be time.
It's time for Toby's weekly Pathways Roundup.
People probably get really annoyed at us for dancing to it, but that's what we do. For anyone that is on YouTube, we dance to that song. So that isn't on YouTube.
Hang on. That choreography took me a while, mate.
Yeah, but I never learnt it, so I just do my own thing. So we are going to actually start with the women this week. So it was round 1 in the NRLW. We went up to Brisbane to play the Broncos. Unfortunately, went down 28-4, so not a great start for the girls. But you know, there's a lot to like, especially from our winger Caitlin Turnbull. Scored her only try, but ran for 151 meters. So you know, Kezi Apps ran for a traditional over 100 meters from the second row. So you know, I think it does look like the Broncos are going to be pretty heavy hitters in the NRLW this year. So
yeah,
just need to find our feet a little bit. You know, we've got fair few new players, actually, a couple of representatives, but
we've lost a couple of our good ones as well. So
yeah,
I don't know, mate. This season, hopefully, fingers crossed, is a good one. But I think the side needs to look at doing a bit of recruiting soon.
Then we'll move on to the men's. So we ended up come from behind win to beat the Raiders 22-18 with some great appearances from one Taylor May, who started the game in the centres, came off at half time, and then Macassini replaced him in the centres. And both actually had pretty significant impacts. I'm sure everyone's seen the highlights, especially the tackle from Taylor that drove, I think it was Chevy Stewart, back into the in goal.
Don't be that sure. Don't be that sure. If you haven't seen the highlights, particularly Marcy's highlights from that little stint in his debut in Cup on the weekend, search Hamasi Makassini, New South Wales Cup, Magpies. Find it and fucking watch it. Because if you wonder why 47 football codes around the world wanted to sign this bloke, and 57 NRL clubs wanted him, just have a look. Like,
those numbers seem a little bit skewed, but okay.
Oh, I know. Mate, I rounded down. So,
fair.
Look, yeah. Anyway, talking about waxing lyrical about people, but it's the first chance. There's the first chance that people got to see him play against Met. He mate, he brained it.
Didn't look like he was playing against men.
In a half football.
Looks like he was playing against boys again.
He, man, goodness me. It was incredible. Everyone, go and watch the highlights. There's like a 40-second package. I think Nothing But West Tigers on X did up a little package of 45-odd seconds of all his little plays in his half of football. You're going to see a lot of this kid. If you don't have a Bar Sports TV membership, worth having a look. He's playing this weekend. He and May are the starting centres in Cup this weekend.
You literally just stole what I was about to say.
That's fine. I don't care.
Bullshit.
Get on over and watch it. You won't regret it. It's pretty exciting stuff. It could this centre pairing has a chance to be maybe not with Toa, but yeah, maybe something next year. Anyway, sorry, mate. So you were on Cup 22 to 18?
Yeah, 22 to 18. Tries to Rami, Tuatupu, El Zakim, and Lob actually scored the match winner to get us that game. People are calling for a reinstatement of Lob.
What people?
No. People on Facebook.
What Facebook?
They're like, they should give him another shot. I'm like, no.
He wasn't on my depth chart earlier, if you noticed that.
No.
But credit where credit's due. He's been filling in fullback last couple of weeks. He's actually played pretty well in Cup.
Yeah, just his position in play has been shit again, but
well,
but yeah, so that's the men. And then if we go to the boys, we also downed the Raiders 26-24. Tries to Tavana, Tatua, Sakuru, Madai, and Tavana actually finished it off on the 78th minute. So, the boys, the youngins are doing well as well. I think that was another come from behind win. Oh, no. Well, it was 10 all at halftime. So we ended up, finishing off, winning by 2. So, happy days all around apart from the girls, but, we'll keep an eye on that and hopefully they can start to find some form. I think it's a longer season this year too for them as well. I think they're 12 games rather than 8.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Big game for the Tigers in flag this week. We're up in the 7th. I think it's a top 6 play in the finals. And we're playing the Warriors, who are equal on points in 8th. So, yeah, quite a big game.
New South Wales Cup have the Warriors too. So, 9:40 our time.
The problem is the top 6 are 3 points clear of us. So we're in 7th on 18, and the Doggies are 6th on 21. Para then 5th on 24. So it's a bit of work to get there, but stranger things have happened. But, big form turnaround for the flag side, big form turnaround for the cup side. So very, very pleasing. And you alluded or mentioned it. Sorry, not alluded. You mentioned it earlier in the show that, we're starting to fill out these grades underneath. And Richo's been talking about that since the moment he got here.
Yeah.
And we're starting to see these sides play better. Sakura's come back into flag and playing more flag. Felity was back playing flag after being in cup for a year and a half or whatever it was, floundering. And, we've brought the likes of Tui Tupu across, Mapapalangi across, a bunch of other guys, Elzakim in the off-season, and Rami and the likes of these guys. Hope came down. So we are starting to see these undersides play well. And now all of a sudden we're talking about dropping a bloke that started lock and captain on the weekend because of a bit of a rotation and maybe putting May into 13 again. No, I won't go there again. Yeah, good problem to have, mate. When the juniors are going well, we know that flows into the top side. So
absolutely.
Very, very pleasing, mate. We might jump into talking about this upcoming game against the Warriors. So on Sunday, 2:00, good time, same time as last week.
Mm-hmm.
Boys line up as follows. A couple of big ins come back for us, which is awesome. So we've got Sania at the back, Staines and Skelton at the wings, Dewey and Toa at the centres again. Stafford holding what I think was an elbow. He had the elbow strapped. I'm wondering if it was to prevent hyperextension, given how the strapping was. I'd have to go back and have a look, or whether it was inside, which would allude to that'd be hyperextension. But anyway, I have to go back and have a look. Hopefully he's all good and he can shake it off. We've got Big Luai coming back in as captain and 5'8". Hopefully gets through Origin all good. Hopefully he has a win. Latu is the 7. May and Pole are the props. Appy comes back in at hooker. Fainu and Suka are the back row. Twal, who I was talking about before, is the 13. Hope retains his position in the 17 at 14. I think got Seafarth, Sione Fainu, and Jack Bird comes back in on the bench. Pretty light bench this week, mate, I've got to admit. Heath Mason, Charlie Murray, Kit Leilali'i, Brent Naden, Luke Leilali'i are the extended bench there, mate. The Warriors themselves, obviously, big outs. Chanzi's out. Luke Metcalf out for this. He did an ACL.
Yeah.
Horrible. So he's out for the season.
He was
flying. He was a fat shot, I reckon, for the Dally M. But so look, they're still pretty short, mate. They're better than better than half our odds at $1.41. We're blown out to $2.93. Good money, I think, at the line, but responsibly. What are you thinking about this game, mate?
I actually think we're going to win. I think the inclusion of Appy and Luai is really going to take it up another level that we had last week. I think the intensity, because it wasn't like, sometimes you have those intense games and it just takes it out of you and it's hard to back up. But it wasn't like that. It wasn't one of those ones where it looked like it took it out of them. I think that we will back it up and we will back it up well.
Yeah.
When you said it's a light bench, I think that's actually going to play in our favour. I think we'll have that big bulky pack in the middle to take the punch out of the game, and then bring on that light pack to run around them. So I actually have us winning.
Okay.
I have us winning 26-12.
How are you going to? Okay, so you're going to use mobility to get around them or through them or
around them? I think around them. I think they've also got Adam Pompey played quite well against us last time we played, if I remember correctly. But he has been a little bit inconsistent as well. I think there's a good chance to go down that side. I think he's not on DWS Z's side. I think Wateni is with Rocco Berry, if I remember correctly. So I'd go down their left. I mean, they're our left, their right. And I think I'd focus a lot on that. Bring Sam Weller into the fray. Skelton as well. So
yeah, fair enough. And you said 28-12, 26-12? Okay, fair enough. Love the confidence. Look, I think if we are half serious about becoming a decent football side, I think we should win this. I think the side on paper can certainly match it. I think we're back for the most part in most of our areas again. The forward pack's in good form, and we're getting a couple of key ins back. So the side on paper, for the most part, whilst you can argue what full strength looks like these days, we don't really know, because there's a lot of variables there. It's relatively strong. I don't think there's too many extra people, sans Buller, that we would push straight in. Taylor May up to speed, he might find a spot, etc., etc., etc. So I think we should beat them if we're half decent. I get the suspicion it's going to be another arm wrestle, but I'm going to say we skip out, and it's a game we actually cruise relatively. It's not going to be easy, but I think we cruise okay. I think we do 32-18, which would be nice.
Happy days.
Yeah. Did you do bold prediction?
No, not yet.
No. Have you got one for us?
Because he dropped the ball last time, I'm going to say May's going to cross for a 4-pointer.
That'd be good. We do owe him one, I think.
We do.
That was the game. What was that, like 3 or 4 minutes to go, and it would have put us out by 10 or something? Or 6 minutes to go? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember either. I was driving back from Sunny Coast, so.
Not good enough. Mine is that Hope is going to get over from dummy half in a short stint. Possibly have a try or try assist as well. So he'll impact the scoreboard from the bench. That's my bold prediction. I might even get on him for an any time. I reckon he'd be juicy odds. He's been a try-scoring freak this year in Reggie's.
He would be.
Mate, anything else you want to add about the Warriors game before we wrap things up?
No. No, I think we're kind of long in the tooth this one, so best to wrap it up.
Briefly, I've got to mention it. State of Origin 3. Day of release of our show. Maybe we hold off. People can wait. No, maybe not. Who wins and why? Or who wins and what's the score?
Well, we win. I say we're going to win 18-6. I think it's going to be a tight one, and we're just going to get 2 late ones like we did last year in Game 3. I think why too. I think, unfortunately, we are New South Welshmen, but it is just a game of footy by the end of the day, and unfortunately, Karen Munster's dad did pass away, and I think that's going to affect them a lot more than people anticipate. A lot of people say it'll probably galvanise them. I kind of think it might have the opposite effect, unfortunately, for them. So, yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah, okay. 38-10. New South Wales flog them.
Yep.
Because this is what they should have done the whole series.
Absolutely.
Full confidence at home. Got to back them. We were awful in the last game, and we got close in the end.
We were awful, but we also played against 14 men.
Yes, exactly. So in spite of that, so I think, yeah, that's what I hope we do. New South Wales is in some ways the West Tigers of origin, in some ways, because they find ways to lose the unlosable game, and they're complacent. They're complacent in games they should win. So, but let's see how we go. Man of the match, very quick.
I'm going to say Luai.
Okay.
I think Luai is going to justify his selection, and everyone is going to basically say, "Why didn't you pick him from the start?" So,
Stephen Crichton, he'll score 2.
Cool. And we will be watching that game together.
We will. Again, we've watched a few games together of late. It's good.
We have.
Mate, that's about it, I think. Should we wrap things up? You look like you're falling asleep.
I'm getting tired. Yeah. Big day.
As always, you can find us on all the social media platforms that you love and follow: YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, and Apple. All West Tigers media is good media in our eyes. The West Tigers podcast, West Tigers Life podcast, the West Tigers Faithful podcast. The Ambush on Facebook, westtigersforum.com. Get on over and follow them, like them, subscribe. Tell them who sent ya, the humble guys from the Tiger Town podcast. Thanks to our sponsor, Best On Ground Digital. Best On Ground Digital, the digital marketing agency that looks after the little guy. They will not steer you wrong. bestongrounddigital.com. Anything digital marketing related, they'll hook you up. They'll sort you out. They've got you covered. Toby, we've got the Roosters covered, at least until next time. Nothing more to say than go the mighty Rooster eating West Tigers.
Up the Tigers.